he doesn't know he's the villain. That's what I like about it. He's an antagonist that does not know he's the antagonist. He's the hero of his own story, and I think the best villains are that way.
Ultimately, vulnerability is what makes a lot of people strong.
Mm.
And I'm always interested in that in characters. So it's just about finding that and making that feel real and lived in.
I know that if a first-time director is attached to a script, suddenly you're committing to a smaller budget. You're probably not going to get studio interest. And so I didn't want to stand in the way of this movie getting made.
Refuses to kind of leave without something, you know? Like, I think it's her own way of adapting to this world that she doesn't want to keep up with.
Are you breaking up with me?
It's not you. It's me.
Jack, thank you for all of your awesome Red Letter Media appearances.
Thank you for. Anytime someone goes horse, I'm like, I know what you're talking about. That's great. I love that.
I didn't want to start it off in a too awkward of a way.
No,
but...
this is exactly the way you should have started. Thank you.
So I absolutely love Companion. This was my kind of movie in every way. And Jack, I know you already remarked on this, but Sophie, what was your reaction when you saw that the robot element would be revealed in the marketing?
I don't know. I think it's amazing to go in not knowing what the reveal is, but I think it's not wholly dependent on the reveal. And the movie's so complex and layered that, and it still hits. Like, I know I've seen it so many times and it still hits.
Yeah.
So I think I would prefer if people didn't know, but I think ultimately it still hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's one of the, a movie that could be considered like a twist movie. You know what I mean?
There are
Like,
twists in it.
there are twists in it, but
it's not.
The quality of the movie does not depend on whether or not you know the twist. It's just
Yeah.
it's a really great movie, and I think the reason why I was so passionate about it, you know, going in blind, is because that's the way that I read the script the first time. It's one of the
Yeah.
best scripts I've ever
I wish
read.
I could get the log line, but it still had me shooketh. I can't
Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
it said shooketh.
I mean, listen, I'll go in right there with you. I was shooketh as well.
Well, and Jack, between Josh and your role as Richie in Scream, you always manage to make the most despicable people somehow likable. What's it like to get to play both good and bad within the same character?
Oh man, it's really fun. I mean, Josh, I feel it's funny with Richie and Scream. Kind of my whole job in that is to make the audience not suspect me for the whole time, so that I can kind of reveal that later. And then once we get to that reveal, Richie gets to have fun because he really enjoys. He wants to be a scream killer. Or a stab killer. He wants to be that campy guy with the knife, like reciting a monologue before he kills you. But with Josh, he doesn't know he's the villain. That's what I like about him, is that, or I enjoyed about playing him, is that he's an antagonist that does not know he's the antagonist. He's the hero of his own story, and I think the best villains are that way. And I think Josh is one of the more insecure people I've ever played in my life. Yeah, I'm trying to find empathy for him, or I did find empathy for the character while I was playing him, because you have to. You can't be judging the character while you're playing them. Never, ever. But now that I'm not anymore, I can safely say, screw Josh. I don't like him, and I would never invite him to my home.
Yeah. Well, and Sophie, I love that Iris's main drive isn't that she just wants autonomy and to be a person. She wants to be a good person, and I think that comes across through your performance. Other than when forced, it's not like Iris is out for revenge. She just wants out, which makes her so easy to root for. So how do you approach humanizing something that's not human?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because there's so many technical aspects within playing her, but again, she has more empathy than any other character in the movie. So I think it was just about, tapping into that and tapping into her vulnerability, because ultimately vulnerability is what makes a lot of people strong. And I'm always interested in that in characters. So it was just about finding that and making that feel real and lived in.
The first thing I have to ask, based on watching the movie, it seems like the sex robot element is purposely mysterious in the beginning. So what was the reasoning behind revealing this element in the marketing?
What are you doing? Shut her down already.
What is she talking about, Josh?
Yeah, I mean that's just unfortunate. Like this day and age, that there's so much competition, there's so much noise that you have to cut through that. Everyone can stay home and watch Netflix and have like a billion shows and TV and movies at their fingertips. So we're at a time where you have to be like, no, like you're gonna pay $20 to see this movie. You're gonna probably get a babysitter. Like this is what the movie is. And like you also have to rely on the idea that like even if you know the twist, there's there are more twists and turns to come. And I also am really amazed that a lot of people are able to like turn off like I go to movies now and I see all these people like standing outside the theater while the trailers are playing. I love that. I love that like there are still pockets of people that are like, nope, I don't want to know anything. I want to go in blind. And so God bless them, because that's tough to do. Because me loving trailers and like thinking of them as art in themselves, like I can't do that. I just want to. Sometimes the previews are the best part of the movie.
When I saw that Zach Krager was originally going to direct, but after seeing what a clear vision you had, asked you to take it on, as the writer, is there a moment where you go, crap, now I have to figure out how to actually execute this awesome script?
Yeah, no, yes, exactly. That's what happened. Like I never, like going back to that, the fact that I'm a realist, like I know that if a first-time director is attached to a script, suddenly you're committing to a smaller budget. You're probably not going to get studio interest. And so I didn't want to stand in the way of this movie getting made. So my point of view, the entire process was like, I don't care. Like the best director is the director that gets this movie made. And so credit to Zach for like attaching himself and then, realizing through talking about the script and scenes and I think seeing how protective I was of the material. And I was always just constantly asking him like, well, how are you going to shoot this scene? How are you going to shoot this scene? Like, this is what I had in mind. I think he realized like, his job would be best suited if he stepped aside, was a producer, and then he could mentor and shepherd me through the process. And as soon as I got that phone call from him, I felt blindsided. I was like, oh my God, direct it. Can I do this? And all my fears were just like suddenly like at the forefront. I'm like, oh my God, I know how hard it is to direct a movie. I know the stress is involved in that. And then it became like, can I do that? And it actually took 2 days to decide. I was like, that's too many days, but I still needed that time to just like gather up and be enough confidence to be like, what am I doing? Like, how often are you going to get this opportunity? You idiot! Like, take it. Like, call him up and apologize for taking 48 hours. And luckily I did, and now I'm sitting here talking to you about it. Yeah.
Well, and as someone who was a fan of Zach's comedy career, it's been awesome to see him be this like stalwart for the horror genre.
Yeah. And his next movie, Weapons, is going to be fantastic too. So
I cannot wait.
Yeah.
So excited. And I love that Iris's main motivation isn't that she just wants autonomy and to be a person, but she wants to be a good person. And I think in this day and age, the message of a robot having more morals than most humans feels very relevant. What made you want to take that approach?
I came late, honestly. Like when the original idea had popped in my head, I always knew that it was going to be a story of like this self-contained story of like some couples go to the cabin in the middle of the woods. You have this like great horror trope that you're kind of relying upon, and then I knew one character was going to discover that they're a robot, and then my brain is immediately going, well, they have to be the antagonist. They have to be like it's going to be from the point of view of the humans and getting picked off one at a time. And as I'm writing it, I'm just relating to her so much, and then it just became like, wait, can I tell this story from the point of view of the robot? Is that a possibility? And then like all the like the gifts that idea gives you. It's like, well, it's a future. So I'm not really making judgments of people today, but it's a possibility that if this technology did exist, if suddenly your phone looked like a human being, it's going to affect how you interact with everyone, because you're going to start objectifying like your friends, because there's the lines between object and human now are blurred, and some people are going to find good relationships through this technology. I didn't ever want to come from a place of judgment, because this is a real thing. Like, companion robots are already in their infancy, so I didn't want to like ever be like, oh, look at these these degenerates. I can't believe they're relating to robots. No, I wanted to show both sides of that. I wanted to show someone that used it for evil and one who used it for good. Yeah.
This really does feel like it could be a reality in the not too distant future. How do you balance grounding the film and introducing new technology for the world?
Very early on, I'm like, I don't want, this is a sci-fi movie, I don't want to bog it down with tech. I don't want it to be Ex Machina. As much as I love Ex Machina, it's from the point of view of two programmers. You know what I mean? So immediately it's kind of, there's like a little bit of a disconnect from like the reality. It's more like it's a very inside baseball about, our relationship with technology. I wanted to put it in a world where none of these people work in tech. This is just a world where this technology exists, and she's not iPhone generation 1, she's iPhone generation 10. So it's like you're also not having to introduce the idea of people getting used to this technology. These people it's already lived in. They're already existing in a world where this technology exists, and that's like, that to me is where the fun is to be had, because then you can play around with like how people like kind of interact with her, and then you get a lot of Easter eggs from that too, because you watch it for the first time not knowing that she's a robot. Then you can start seeing like, oh, that she's not being a bad person. She just doesn't like that this technology exists. Yeah. She's like she's like a Luddite a little bit, like Kat. So it's a fun, like, the Easter eggs came out of that. Yeah.
What was the scene that you were most excited for audiences to experience?
To be honest with you, it's one of those weird scenes where you write it and it just like, I never thought about how like interesting it would be as I'm writing it, but her breaking up with him when she's in the car, like, that's so fun to me, because you're taking these really recognizable tropes. You're taking these lines like, it's not you, it's me, a line that you've heard 1,000 times before, but you're putting in this completely new context and seeing audiences like really like laugh at that, like just like, oh my God, you guys get this movie 100%, and that's so fun. And yeah, that's why I do this. Is just you want to do a little bit of a twist on something that's been done a billion times, and that's what kind of because everything's been done a billion times. The only thing you can do is just make something like recognizable and then twist it on its head just as much as you possibly can. Yeah.
So I really loved the film. There are so many twists and turns, but I have to ask, were any of you surprised that the sex robot aspect was revealed in the trailers?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I spent a lot of time when I wasn't working on set hanging out with our producers, and I know that was like a big point of contention for everybody, of just like, do we reveal it? Do we not? Do we keep it a secret? And I think ultimately we wanted to be honest about what the movie is about, but I think there are so many other twists and turns that I don't think that revealing what Iris is gonna take away from a lot of the other shock value that comes out in the movie.
That's just one part in all of these twists and turns that come out.
Yeah.
But I think they actually did a really good job of not revealing it for the longest time.
Yeah.
It was like kept a secret. People did not know until pretty recently what it was like, whoa. And so you've only gotten a taste, and yes, it's a major thing, but there's so many twists and turns to this movie, as you've seen yourself, that I think the audience is going to walk away exactly like you did, with a smile on their face.
Harvey and Lukas, your relationship in the film is very sweet, and your characters seem to really connect through dance. Did you come up with the dance moves together, and what was that process like?
We did come out with the choreography together. We were in a really lovey place, both of us, in that time, and this was shot years back. But we brought that into the characters. I think it was really important for us to be conveying that with these two people that you saw, and important that in queer culture we see a couple that doesn't look like the traditional, cookie cutter that you see every day on hookup apps and whatnot. So it was nice to show that, and to also see that it doesn't end there, that there's another layer behind that. It's a little darker, and the choices that are made may not be the best, but that's just life. Humans are complex and we're layered. So I really love that.
Well, and Megan, I saw Kat as being the type of person that sex robots are kind of replacing, with her clearly not being invested in her relationship with Sergei and doing it for ulterior motives. So did you view Kat as more of a villain or a victim?
No, I don't think she's either. I think she's just a human who's kind of fed up with what the world is turning into, and she refuses to have any part of it, but she also refuses to kind of leave without something, I think she it's her own way of adapting to this world that she doesn't want to keep up with. And so she'd rather just do something that actually serves her. And that's really inherent to who I think Kat is at her core.
When I watched the film 3 times and picked up more and more each time, Harvey, Eli really feels like he gets brought along for a ride that he doesn't want to be on. What do you think the key was to preserving Eli's innocence despite some, let's just say, unseemly situations?
I think that it was great to present Eli that way, so the audience sees him as this, like, you know, lovable and like endearing guy. But really, kind of, we show the hurt that comes from him being excluded from this plan, this idea of what may happen or whatnot, and no friendship, you know, can either test the friendship, I guess, if you get tested in like the way that if you are left out of a, you know, movie night or whatnot, it's not fun. So being left out for even the slightest second out of plans that were made that were going to be, I don't want to give too much away, but life-changing, it's hurtful. And so, yeah, he was wanting to be part of that. But along the way, always bringing his partner along. He never excluded him from anything, which I thought was very lovely. But in the end, was that the best choice? Only you can tell me.
Spark.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo remains an independent company, and we appreciate all of your support.